56 years ago, a visionary American diplomat, Chester Bowles, the ambassador to India from 1963 to 1969, had predicted the fault lines between the erstwhile Soviet Union and the People's Republic of China. He, and I quote, hoped that it would be possible for the USA and USSR, with the help of India, to come to some kind of understanding about preventing Chinese expansionism and infiltration in Southeast Asia. In 2020, Trump too realized that Russia was important in the fight against China. And this is why he decided to invite Putin for the expanded G7 summit and alliance against Beijing. Canada and the UK opposed the invitation, and Trump met with criticism and conspiracy theories from Democrats and media outlets within his country. But Trump rightly said that it's common sense to invite Russia. After all, the free world's real enemy today is the Communist Party of China. Then came Joe Biden with tremendous pro-China energy. Biden was so compromised that he let Chinese diplomats thrash American Secretary of State and the NSA at the Alaska summit, and he himself downplayed the CCP-led genocide of Uyghurs in Xinjiang. China was extremely elated by now, but the pull of the US foreign policy already set by Trump has been too strong for Biden. And just as he did in the Middle East, the new US president is now following Trump toe-to-toe, even though not as vigorously or efficiently. And now China is rattled, shocked at this U-turn. The discomfort of the Chinese is now loud and clear. Hi, and welcome to TFI Global, the foreign affairs and geopolitical analysis arm of the TFI Media Group. I am your host Shubhangi, and in this video, I will tell you about China's latest meltdown as Biden takes a leaf out of Trump's book. Let's begin. China's biggest nightmare is coming true, as the United States of America is driving a serious wedge between Moscow and Beijing. During the recent Geneva summit between Putin and Biden, the US president was found trying to pivot towards Russia in order to wean it away from China. China has been seemingly unnerved by the Oval Office's latest attempts to exploit fault lines in the Sino-Russian relationship. Global Times, a Chinese Communist Party mouthpiece, published a report immediately after the Geneva summit that argued why Biden's bid to drive a wedge between China and Russia is going to fail. The Global Times report, however, shows clear signs of a meltdown in Beijing and indicates how Russia and China are not at their friendliest. A day prior to the Geneva summit between Biden and Putin, a US-based media outlet Cyberscoop published a report which mentioned that the Russian government agencies were allegedly hacked by Chinese hackers. The content and timing of the report suggested that the US wanted to highlight how China is becoming a big threat to Russia. After the Geneva summit, US President Joe Biden's policy of driving a wedge between Russia and China in order to isolate Beijing became amply clear. He even argued, Russia is in a very, very difficult spot right now. They are being squeezed by China. They want desperately to remain a major power. He said this while explaining why Russian President Vladimir Putin would want to work with the United States and other countries. Perturbed by Biden's surprising maneuver to play up the existing fissures in the Sino-Russian relationship, a kind of a follow-up from Trump's policy, CCP mouthpiece Global Times decided to discredit the latest US policy. In an unimpressive rant against the United States, the state-run Global Times admitted that during the Geneva summit, Biden tried to drive a wedge between Russia and China. Global Times reported, Biden told President Putin that Russian economy is struggling and Russia faces a long border with China at a time when Beijing is hell-bent on domination. Global Times then added, it is truly beyond any person's normal imagination for Biden to utter those words to Putin, which only reflects the US president's desperation to enlist friends and foes alike in order to slow down China's rise. Truth be told, China could never imagine that the Biden administration will publicly bring up fault lines in the Sino-Russian relationship and issues like Chinese expansionism against Russia. It suddenly seems to China as if Biden has taken a leaf out of Trump's book. So the CCP mouthpiece tried to convince how Russia and China share a close relationship. The state-run media publication said, ever since Putin became the Russian top leader in 1999, relationship between the two great neighbors of Russia and China has been improving and took a giant leap in 2004 as the two countries settled all their border issues in a landmark boundary agreement. Global Times also claimed the two powers share nearly identical positions on the international stage. The two economies are complementary in structure, and in particular, the top leaderships in Beijing and Moscow are respecting and adoring each other, which sets the bedrock for the two to stand back with back. So, Beijing wants us to believe that there are no disputes between Russia and China. It even claimed that border disputes between the two countries have been settled. However, what Global Times didn't reveal is the fact that its own editor-in-chief, Hu Xijin, had refused to refer to Vladivostok, a Russian city, as Tongji Dongfang, or ruler of the East, which is the meaning of its Russian name. Instead, he chose to call it by the Chinese pseudonym Haixinwei, at a time when ultra-nationalist Chinese elements were trying to stake claim over the Russian Far East capital, Vladivostok. Chinese expansionism knows no bounds, and it has also been aiming Russian territory. Global Times deliberately concealed how China is trying to take over the isolated Russian Far East, challenge Russian primacy in the Arctic region, and eat into Moscow's privileged sphere of influence in Central Asia and Eastern Europe. The CCP mouthpiece also covered up tensions between Moscow and Beijing over the latter's attempts to steal Russian defense technology. But no matter what Global Times has to say or cover up, some really contentious issues between Moscow and Beijing have already created huge cracks in the Sino-Russian relationship, and the US seems to be successfully driving a wedge between the two nations.